Hi, guys. Welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. We all want to grow up. Some of us are on a path, others, they have not even figured out who they want to be when they grow up. And I guess that's the journey that we all are on. Now, I ask you a question. How would you feel about being strong, assertive, maybe smart, sexy, independent? Would that be sort of features that you would like to live up to and say, wow, that is cool? Well, that is the acronym or mnemonic SASSI. And I've got exactly the woman to introduce you to, because she is working on that to actually become that. And she is helping other women to do exactly that. I've got SASSI Coach, Christine Malek. Christine, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate that. And if I could give a big woohoo, because you did that beautifully. That's the sassy in me coming out.
Good. And that's so important, isn't it? Because life has a way of interfering with our best laid plans. And often enough, these plans are mediocre to start off with because we never know who we want to be. And then life happens. And then for most of us, life is becoming this treadmill that we're on. And it's just, like a hamster wheel. And the hamster keeps busy and we never actually stop to think. But in some lives, things happen. And not so nice things happen. And that happened to me. And that's the reason that I've got nowadays a show and actually speak out, because I've seen the darkness very intimately. And you are the same. So, guys, a lot of trigger warnings here. This is Christine has gone through hell and back. Without doubt, I can say that. And therefore, just be aware, guys. If you be aware of your emotions, and if you need to stop this interview, then please do so. Call for help. Call your GP, call police, call maybe a crisis helpline in your country. I think that is really, really important. If we can achieve that you seek help, then this would be so wonderful. So this would be an honor for me, and I send all the energy out to the listeners and viewers today. But back to you, Christine. How the hell does one become a SASSI coach?
Well, I think, to put it very bluntly, I went through hell and back. Not just once, probably several times, many times. How did I become here? Oh, it was a long, hard road.
What did you want to be? I mean, SASSI is beautiful what you're doing now, because you're using everything that you've learned in your life. But when you started out, when you were 16, when you were a younger woman, who did you want to be?
I wanted to be a child psychologist.
Oh, wow.
And then I wanted to, yes. And then at some point I wanted to be an attorney. I've always had to help the underdog, to help the smaller person, the person that couldn't afford, the big high-end attorney but still needed that help. The children the same way. Animals and children are probably my two biggest causes. And of course now abused women, because those two have always been, they didn't ask to be where they are. And when they're abused and hurt, they need us to take care of them. And those are my two biggest causes.
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
it was not an easy road.
So
Definitely went off the path. And I ended up, when I graduated high school, I ended up going to school for hotel restaurant management. I thought I was going to work Vegas, baby.
With at least there's guaranteed money there. There's, you probably can make a living. So there's nothing wrong with thinking on your own basic needs and thinking, okay, let's actually get myself financially more or less stable. And then I can always do those things that my heart yearns for.
Right.
And how did it end up?
Nowhere near there. So I had the first marriage was 22 years. It was a good marriage. I have three beautiful children, two granddaughters. The marriage just kind of went south. We kind of went on different paths. We were both, okay, those are my drug addiction days. That was back in the 80s when I met him. It was shortly after I came back from Switzerland. The year I graduated, I went to Switzerland, worked in a restaurant over there, had a blast, an absolute blast. Did not want to come home. They're like, my parents were like, oh no, you're already enrolled and ready for college. You need to come home. A few years later, maybe 2 years later is when I met my first husband. Ended up in a wedding dress at 7 months pregnant. I had no plans of getting married, obviously did not want to get married, had no idea where my life was going. I was in college for hotel restaurant management. Here I am, pregnant. My mother's forcing me into a marriage. The marriage was fine. It was good. There was no abuse there whatsoever. We have 3 children, 2 granddaughters. It was a marriage that went awry, and we had kicked the cocaine together, obviously. Yes. Okay. So when I met him and was dating him and of course married to him, I was doing cocaine while I was pregnant. There's going to be a lot of people out there that is going to hit a chord with, and believe me, I have gone through and I know all the effects. That son, my eldest one, I thank the Lord because he turned out, well, he's good now, but he is also a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. My second daughter, doing cocaine while being pregnant with her, she ended up in the hospital. She had, basically she could not keep any food down. Her muscle down there, and I forget what the name of it is, would not close. So she lost, when she was 9 months old, she lost 3 pounds. And if any moms out there listening, they know that is significant. By the time the third child came along, our cocaine habit was full blown. Like we were doing 8 balls a night. It was full blown. When I had my third child, the youngest one, the doctor actually came in. He was crowning. The doctor came in. It was a blessing, but I didn't know it at the time. But my OBGYN basically came in and said, Christine, I understand we have a drug problem. And my reaction was, because you get to a point where you need help. And my action was, yes, because I'm pushing. This child is coming.
Oh, shit. Okay, don't try that at home, kids. Okay, don't try that at home.
Exactly. But the downside of that, I knew I needed to say yes, but the downside was they took him away from me. I could not hold him. I could not bond with him until it was forced, without a doubt, in a very stern way, that I could not have that moment with him till I signed papers stating that I would get sober and that I would go into some sort of program. I was mad. I was young. He came along when I was 26, 25. And I was still young, dumb, stupid. All we knew was, getting high every night. Although I did make sure, I will continue to tell my kids every day that I need to, that I was a lousy mom, without a doubt. But I always made sure you guys were clothed, fed, taken care of, and always had a roof over your head. I at least made sure that as much as I did, and we waited till they were done, and I still bathed them. I took them to school. I did all those good mom things. I just happened to be a cokehead, a really big one. And the cocaine got bad. You know how it is. You can't get enough in your body. So we went from snorting it to smoking it. And my then husband, he started shooting it. And that's kind of where I drew the line. And I said, I am not shooting cocaine. So they took him away. I had about a day that I could not bond with him. Obviously, I couldn't breastfeed. There's too much. Now, 2 days before he delivered was actually my last time using the cocaine. So I was clean, but not completely. It was a good couple of days till, I think, a full 18 hours till maybe even longer till I could actually hold him. He is now probably my biggest advocate. He is the other two teased that he's mama's boy. So that thing that, I tend to disagree with that philosophy of that you don't bond with your children if you can't bond with them from the very first, because I didn't have that. And we have a very close, I'm actually close with all three of my kids. They're good kids. They're my eldest one was the only one that had any type of drug or alcohol problem. Then of course, after that, go ahead.
No. I was just, there's so many things go through my mind from your feeling guilty and still trying to do your best to all that. I recognize myself in many things that you say. For me, it was alcohol. For you, it was the cocaine. One question though, where was the money coming from? Because cocaine was never so cheap. So how did you manage?
My husband actually did fairly. He worked for my father. I mean, that's how we met. Yes, I know. Stefan, that is a story in itself. I came home from college one day. My father was having a Christmas party, basically told my husband, before he was my husband, he took his car keys away and said, you're not getting your car keys till you agree to take my daughter on a date. Little did he know, I had already had a boyfriend in the state that I was in, and a boyfriend in the state that I was attending college. I did not have a man problem.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a story on itself. And just to correct you, cocaine is not my only addiction. I have addictions up and down, out the wazoo, honey. I mean, I used to go to my AA meetings and say, hi, my name is Christine. I'm an ick because I'm an addict, drug addict, coke addict, alcoholic, sexholic, workaholic. I mean, if it's got an ick at the end of it, I've got it.
I'm an ick.
Simple.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Ooh.
It covers every gambit of, well, I was not a gambling addict. That was the only thing I just could never get into that. Chocoholic? Absolutely.
Well, I'm still an addict. Nowadays, I'm proud of it because I'm addicted to life. I'm addicted to living a life so fully that yesterday becomes jealous of today. So there's some addictions that are still cool, okay? So let's get that right. And only because you're an addict, that is not negative, not necessarily a negative thing. So let's come to that. If we don't come to it today, then yeah, that is a TED Talk I'm working on, because there is so much more out there that we addicts can do apart from feeling guilty and feeling ashamed and all those kind of things.
Right.
Yeah, here you are. So you're living life to the fullest. Luckily, money was there. Did you get any run-ins with the police?
Okay, so that was how we started your question. So my husband had a really good job, but when you go through, and I had to first go through NA before I went through AA, and this was back in the 80s. So of course, back then we had to figure out what our monthly, yearly use was of cocaine. And he went through a program at the same time that I did. Now, my parents were living in Florida when my third child was born. So my mom came up and grabbed up me and the kids. Now, my kids are the newborn. My daughter is 13 months older than him, and my eldest son is 4 years older than the middle child, my daughter. So here my mom is taking on 3 brand new babies, picking us up. My husband takes his getting clean and getting sober, his sobriety up in Pennsylvania. I'm taking mine down in Florida. So we, of course, going through, we have to figure out how much money we spent. And we each came up with about $50,000 each to support our habit. Each, which means we were spending $100,000 a year on our cocaine. Now, did we make that much money back in the 80s? Not that much.
Okay.
Not that.
Okay.
Theft, yes, I stole money without a doubt. I got lucky that the person that I stole it from basically said, clean out your desk, you're fired. I'm not pressing charges, but you need to get out of here. Did we do other things? Yes. Was sex involved? Yes. Was other favors involved? Yes. I mean, when you're an addict, especially with cocaine, and you need to get that high, which needs to be more cocaine to gain the same amount of high, you do anything. I mean, it's like anybody that's addicted to heroin or meth. You do whatever it takes to get that high. Anything. At one point, I had collected a collection of music boxes that my dad had got for me from the time I was like 7 or 8 years old, from all over the world. Everywhere that he would travel, he would find a music box. And I had probably about 20 of them that I had accumulated through the years. I also had my dad had bought me for my 16th birthday. I'm sorry, 18th birthday. No, it was my 16th. Anyway, he had bought me and we grew up in Pennsylvania. This was up in Pennsylvania. He had bought me a silver fox fur coat. Like, it needed to be in the summertime. It needed to go into cold storage. It was true fur. It was real fur. We don't do fur now, but I also had I forget what year it was. I love that car. It was a red 2-door BMW, just a little Sportster kind of car. I had, because my husband's sister worked at a jewelry store, he got a really good discount on it was a 1.5 carat Ceylon sapphire. That was my engagement diamond ring and wedding ring. So the dealer, basically, my husband came to me and basically said, I have to take this. I said, what do you mean you have to take this? Well, we owe the dealer. I said, what do you mean we owe the dealer? Joe, you can't. Oh, I shouldn't have said his name. Anyway, I said, you can't take, what am I supposed to drive? What am I supposed to do? I mean, my car went, my fur coat went, my collection of all those music boxes went. My ring, I lost my wedding ring and diamond ring. And it was, like I said, it was a sapphire. It was a Ceylon sapphire. They're somewhat rare, not extremely rare, but gone. All those material things, gone. Do I regret that today? Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest, because I realized that those were just things. What I gained was my life. And through all those things that had happened, even back in the 80s in my cocaine days, and we haven't even touched on my alcohol days yet, what I realized was that yes, there are music boxes that I miss and that were probably one of a kind from all over the world that maybe someday I'll find, maybe I won't. But what I had was my life and my 3 children. I still had them. They weren't taken away from me. I told you that, I wasn't able to see my son, my last one. And I had, for the first like 6 or 8 weeks, I had DCF coming in every single day, checking me, checking him. Those were the first 8 weeks. And then it went down to 3 times a week for like 4 or 6 weeks. And then it went down to once a week. And then it was once a month. So I had somebody coming in and checking on me to make sure that he was fine and that I wasn't doing, what I wasn't supposed to. So no police. We got, although hindsight being 2020, that might have helped. Putting my ass in jail might have helped. Putting his ass in jail might have helped. He's been in fights. He was in numerous, places that he shouldn't have been. got out with his life, came home like an hour after I expected him, bloody, cut. I mean, he's been through his shit with doing things. He left one night. One of his friends came over and said, "Hey, can you get me, a couple of rocks?" My husband called the dealer. The dealer said, "Yep, not a problem." So my husband left me and his friend alone in our apartment. When my husband came back, I was in the bedroom and the friend left immediately. And when my husband came in, I was sobbing and crying and didn't want him to touch me, didn't want him anywhere near me. The next morning when I looked, Steph and I had bruises that went from the knees up because this man attacked and raped me. Maybe now you can understand why I wish I would have been arrested, because I wouldn't have had to endure the rape. And when I say it was nasty, it was nasty. There was no way, because I was under the influence of the cocaine at the time, I couldn't fight him. I couldn't fight him off. Yes, he was bigger. Yes, he was stronger. He pinned me down on the floor. He had so much pressure in his hands to open my legs that they bruised. And I'm not kidding when I tell you, from the knees up, from the knee up, my whole inside legs were bruised. These are the situations that drugs and alcohol will put you in. They put me in it.
I was lucky just to never end up in such a situation, but that was sheer luck. I could have very much ended up in similar things, because sooner or later you lose control, and you don't just have a drink or whatever drug you're taking just to feel good. No, you need more and more and more. And most of us can't stop when we're in the height of our addiction. So you're not alone. You're worse off because you're a girl. You're therefore is an easy target. I'm a big burly bloke, so even when I was drunk, people were probably thinking twice about taking me on. So again, there were things that protected me, but it was certainly not my intelligent behavior that prevented things. I think it was just sheer fucking luck, man. So, man, so that was your cocaine years. That was, well, what would I say? 7 years? 7 until 25.
Yeah, it was about 5 years, 5 to 7 years in there. Yeah. That, like I said, I was pregnant when I met my husband is when we started. It was shortly after that I got pregnant. Yeah. We got married when I was 7 months pregnant, and then of course 4 years later the second child, and then of course 13 months later the third child. Okay. And I actually, because of the cocaine, I ended up cheating on my husband. Oh my gosh. Wow, you're triggering some things here, Stefan.
I'm sorry. That is just the way we roll, in the sense of,
yes.
Same with you. You were suddenly putting me back in my mind into situations where I am far from proud of. But it is what it is. So how did the cheating end up?
I ended up cheating on my husband with the dealer. I mean, it was one of those, he kept sending me over to the dealer to go pick up. I guess, what cop's going to pull over a pretty blonde? And it just, the next day. I mean, I would stay a little longer, here, do a line, here, have a hit. When my husband found out about it, and I don't even know how he found out, but God's intervention. Not only did he, and I forgot about this, he did beat the shit out of me. I ended up having a miscarriage, did not know about it. So it was between the first child and my second child. He also beat the shit out of the dealer. which was a different dealer than the one I had to give all my shit to, which is why he found a second dealer, because he couldn't go to this dealer anymore. It was, yeah, I forgot about that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all in the past. I can't change that, which is why I talk about it, because we need to be sassy about it. We need to be strong. We need to say, you know what, that's what happened. I have no regrets. Everybody asks me to, you know, and like I said, we still even begun to get to the abuse part. Okay. You know, do you have any regrets? Because, you know, with the abuse on the second husband, I you know, had the black eyes and the you know, bruises all over my body, the forced sex. He actually broke my wrist and cracked 3 of my ribs with a rubber mallet and a gunshot wound to the head. Oh, and numerous amounts of hair pulled out of my head. So I've been through all the physical, the mental, the psychological, the verbal. He was extremely psychopathic and narcissistic, but you don't know this when you marry him. But anyway, my point being that if I don't talk about this, because our generation, we were taught to put that stuff under the carpet. We don't talk about that. My brother was an alcoholic before he even was a teenager. He didn't know. It was just something that his body craved. He would fill up a cup of, you know, a quarter of orange juice. The rest of it was dad's vodka from the bar, and take that to school because he knew his body was craving that alcohol. So, you know, I don't mind talking about this, because if it helps somebody understand what they're going to go through, it's hard. Getting sober from the cocaine is hard. Getting sober from the alcohol is hard, but ain't it fucking worth it? I mean, that's the whole plan. That's the whole idea, that we can finally think clear, that we can figure out what our life path is, figure out what our journey is, and take those lessons that we learned being drunks and alcoholics and coke addicts and heroin addicts and meth addicts and every other ick possible, take those lessons and go, okay, so how, and isn't that our 12th step? How do I help that next person, you know, to understand what you're going to go through? It's not easy. It's not easy. But aren't I living proof? Aren't you living proof? I mean, look at this beautiful smile. You know?
True.
Look at that beautiful. You know, I am healthy. I'm loving life. I love where my life is right now. It's not perfect, but there is no such thing as perfect. You know.
What was the cocaine giving you when you go back to you being a younger girl? You were going into hospitality, and that was the 80s, so high pressure environment, and everyone was certainly using all the help they could get, i.e. drinking was normal. Cocaine, certainly in the restaurant industry in certain parts in the world, was normal. What did it actually do to you? What did it give you?
Probably the self-confidence and the validation that I didn't have in my childhood. There's a lot of trauma. There was a lot of molestation that happened in my life very early on. There was a lot of rapes that happened in my teenage years. There was, oh yeah, well, honey, I got stories like you wouldn't believe, and they're all true. I say stories, but I have had one hell of a life, and I do not regret any part of it. I really don't. I mean, there have been definitely some way lows and way highs, but so the cocaine gave me that strength, that what I was looking for that I now find in my sassy. It gave me the courage. It gave me the chutzpah. It gave me the wherewithal to be able to say, I am sexy, even though I didn't feel it inside because of all the shit that I went through in previous years. It gave me, yeah.
I hear you. Because that's the typical thing, isn't it? It is we are looking at alcoholics and at drug addicts, and you say, look, how can you be so low? Well, what people don't realize is that the alternative of not using is so much more painful at that moment for the addict. It is. We are trying to escape our reality. We are trying to escape our pain, and we have learned that, wow, if I use that drug, that behavior, that whatever it is, suddenly I get those different feelings that I have not been able to get in any other way. And unfortunately, we alcoholics and we drug addicts, we have superpowers. And the superpowers come from this super response of dopamine. The dopamine rush that we get is just so much stronger the first time, second time around when we use a substance or do a certain behavior. So therefore it is our dopamine is just amazing. And therefore I can still remember that first feeling of intense well-being and being on the top of the world. And that was, that's beautiful. And that's beautiful when essentially, especially for those people who have maybe not the greatest of all lives. And again, let's not measure and compare. This is no pissing contest. Hey, my trauma was bigger than yours. No, we all have our traumas. We all have our moments that have changed us forever. They often happen very early in life, and they don't have to be sexual molestation. They can be just a way that your mom or your dad talked to you, and it left forever a core belief that you're a waste of time, that you're hopeless, that you're worth nothing. And this is sort of the kind of crap that we tell ourselves, and that we truly believe. We are worthless and we are just pieces of shit. That's typically the kind of point you come to. All the hormones of teenager years then come on top of that, and you're trying to find yourself, and that often ends up in chaos. And then suddenly a drug comes along, or alcohol comes along, and suddenly all that chaos, that hurts, the pain, no longer matter. So let's speak that out. And maybe those of you who are at the moment dealing with a loved one who is in the midst of addiction, that is the reality for that person. That person is trying to escape reality and his own reality that is full of pain. So getting him sober, getting him to stop whatever is at the moment harming him, and maybe you as the relative, that's only the start. You need to deal with all the shit that comes out now under leaves there. And that's exactly why I take my hat off to Christine. Christine is here saying, yeah, okay, I've done this, I've done that. And none of these things you are proud of yet.
Oh, hell no.
Yet they have forced you down a path that you came to a point where you were actually so outside of your comfort zone that you simply had to change. What was that moment? Or what were those moments? Often enough, it's a series of events that lead to that. What changed?
It was the day that I was sitting on the toilet backwards. The seat was down. The second husband, the very abusive one, huge fight. I don't even know what I did. Didn't matter what I did. Anything could have set him off. The yelling, the screaming, the accusations, all common daily. And I was sitting on the toilet, and I can remember having my hands down on the tank, and my head was down, and I was trying so hard to keep my sobbing and crying to a minimum. I had closed the bedroom door. The pocket door for the toilet in the bathroom was open. It was hidden. And he's screaming and yelling in the living room, and he comes in, and it's pounding on the door. Pounding. And I'm like, please stop crying. Just stop crying. Stop crying. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. If you don't stop crying, it's going to get worse. And he stopped. And I thought, okay, maybe he's going to finally do the right thing, just walk out of the house, go take a few minutes. What I didn't realize was he went to the garage and grabbed a sledgehammer, came back to the bedroom door and broke that door. He busted in through the bedroom door with the sledgehammer. And oh my God, I was, please don't let him use this on me. And actually, there are moments where I'm saying, please use it on me. End my fucking life because it's a mess. And I'm listening and I'm trying to still not cry and not sob and not be weak. And I hear him open the drawer on the nightstand. And I heard the cock of the gun. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm sobbing and crying, and I still have my hands down and my head's down. And the next thing I hear, and he was probably yelling something and screaming something at that point. I tuned him out. I feel the gun on my head, and it's just there, and it's heavy, and it's my gun. It was my fucking gun. It was a gun that my son had bought me to protect myself in my single days. 40 caliber, not a little 22. It's a big gun, and it's on my head, and he's screaming at me, and I'm screaming back at him. Pull the fucking trigger, you pussy. Pull the fucking trigger. I dare you. And I'm screaming at him. Pull the fucking trigger. You motherfucker, you don't have the fucking nerves. By this time, I'm just welling with anger and fear and every other emotion that could possibly go through. I wanted him to pull the trigger. It was more so for me than for him. I didn't care what happened to him. I didn't care at that point that it was my house, that there were 2 dogs in the house, that I had 3 children, only 1 granddaughter at that time. I didn't care. Just end my fucking life, because this is no way to live. I can't deal with it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I've reached my limit. I'm just done. And I'm screaming at him and I'm taunting him. And I know I am. I'm doing it on purpose. Pull the fucking trigger, dude. Do it. Grow a pair already. Do it. And he did. And in that moment, 2 thoughts went through my head. And they were, oh, fuck, he pulled the trigger. Like he finally got the balls enough to pull the trigger. And then, of course, the second immediate thought was, oh, fuck, he pulled the trigger and I'm not dead. I'm still here. I still have to deal with this bullshit. And this happened in 2015. I was married to the man until I kicked him out, was in 2018. So I still lived with the abuse for 3 more years. And of course, there's no love there. There's no, oh my God, are you hurt? I could smell my hair burning. I could feel the blood trickling from my head. Getting smacked in the head with the side of the gun, the butt of the gun. I could see the.
Let's be quite clear. 40. I mean, for those of you guys out there who are not used to calibers or not used to shooting, a 40 aimed properly at your head, there is not much of your head left from that range. So he was obviously, luckily, so out of it that he only grazed you. Otherwise, there was no way that you're sitting here. Okay.
Exactly.
So you were grazed, but it was still. He fired a gun at you, so that is still attempted murder, where I come from.
Oh yes.
So hang on. How the hell? What happened thereafter?
Well, as I'm sitting there with those 2 thoughts going through my head, and seeing the hole, and it was probably a quarter-size hole in my wall. that I then found out after the fact that not only did it go through that wall, it also went through the adjourning.
Of course.
That's how powerful this 40 is.
Yeah.
It went through 3 walls. And of course, I'm getting slapped up the head. See what you made me do? You know, this cussing, the screaming, the yelling. And as I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh, now the third thought came into my brain. Because I heard him put the gun back, and then there's a case for the gun, and there's plenty of shells. And now here's my third thought. Either I take this gun now and commit murder myself, or I take this gun and I do what he couldn't and put it to my head and pull the trigger. Because at that point, the abuse and the alcoholism, I mean, the abuse exasperated it like crazy. I mean, I was drinking almost 24/7, and I was holding down a full-time job. He wasn't. I provided for the family. So I sat there on the toilet and I weighed my options. And I sat there forever. I don't even think I slept that night. I slept in the other bedroom. I wasn't, you know, there were many times that it was, get your ass in that fucking bed now. I had to sleep with him. That night I slept in the bedroom, and it was that night that, and throughout the night that I had reached my moment. That was my moment. That's when I said, I can't do this anymore. I've always been a sassy woman, and it came from 20 years earlier when my daughter was in Girl Scouts. That's where the sassy came from. It was strong, assertive, smart, and independent for the girls that I was a troop leader for. So as I'm laying in bed and I'm contemplating everything and wondering, where's my life going? This is not what I envisioned my life. How did I end up with this man? How did I become so rose-colored glasses and fogged and susceptible to all this fairy tale? How did this woman that my children look up to and emulate their lives after? I taught my children to be very strong, independent kids. How did I end up here? Okay, well, I'm never one to dwell in the past. So the next thoughts were, how the fuck do I get out of this? This is my house we live in. He is married to me. We live in my house. He's nowhere on the mortgage, on the deed. He's not. But I know his personality. I know that this is not going to be easy. Excuse me. It was then, and I didn't have anybody, because I was brought up in that era that everything gets swept under the carpet. I didn't have a friend that I did, but I didn't know it at the time. I thought I didn't have a friend that I could talk to. You certainly didn't pick up, the phone and call the local police. That just wasn't something we did. I did it alone, and that's one of the things with my coaching practice is that, and when I speak and when I go on podcasts and when I talk to other women, that this is why I do this, because we don't have to be alone. There are people out there that experience this abuse and the addictions. And the addictions came because of the abuse. I mean, obviously, I had all my addictions beforehand. And then I get into this abusive situation, and now my addictions are full-blown. Full-blown. Drinking almost 24/7. The day that I was beat, the night that I was beat with the rubber mallet, I was expected, this happened at, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was expected to be able to get up and go fishing the next day in the river down in Florida, which I did. I went to work 2 more days after that, finally decided that, okay, I better go to the doctor. And he takes the x-ray and says, oh yeah, it's fully. Now I got to come up with an excuse as to why my wrist is broke. Okay, why my ribs are cracked, because I can't tell any. Well, my husband beat me, with a rubber mallet, by the way. It wasn't just any old mallet. It was a rubber mallet. That was the closest thing that he could find to beat my fucking ass, because he was pissed at me for something he did. So it was at that moment after that gunshot wound that I said, I can't do this anymore. I have to figure out. And I didn't have the answers. I did not have the answers, but I knew I had to do something. What I started to do was little by little, I found positive quotes. I found things that could help me throughout the day, that would give me to light that. I had that little bit of willpower left inside of me, that little bit of fire that was smoldering inside, that wasn't completely stepped on, wasn't completely crushed. That those quotes, because they were silent. He didn't see them. He didn't know about them. He didn't need to know about them. He didn't know what I was doing throughout the day, or when I was, getting, on my way to work. Those were the things that kept me going and kept that fire going till I could figure out what to do in the meantime. Now, little did I know that, like I said, this happened in 2015. I ended up in the hospital in 2016. Even though this little fire was smoldering and burning inside of me, it still took time to get him out of the house. And of course, the abuse still happened. The alcoholism really, because that was the easiest way. He drank, he was an alcoholic. That was the easiest way to numb the pain. The physical pain plus the mental pain, the psychological pain. Physical pain, my wound on my head is healed, okay? My wrist is healed. The physical, I no longer have black eyes, okay? I don't have bruises all over my body. The physical's pains and abuse heal, but it's those psychological and the verbal and the mental, the ones he gave me and the ones I gave myself, that took a long time to heal. So when that happened, that's when I discovered the quotes, and that's when I realized. And like I said, I ended up in the hospital. It was a Saturday afternoon. Fishing sucked. We came home. We were home by noon. It was a decent day. He was drunk. I was drunk because, you can't go fishing with this man unless you're drunk. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it got. And when I say, like, I would take the little pint bottle, fill it from the gallon jug, and take that. Okay. And while he's setting up fishing stuff to get ready before the sun comes up, okay, where was I? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Taking sips out of this thing, because that was the only way to deal with him anymore. Because I had been through so much hell with him for the last 3 years. I had to numb the pain somehow. What else was I supposed to do? I had no way to get this man out of my house. And if I pushed the envelope to get out, what would happen? I'd get a fucking beating again. I couldn't do that. I knew I had.
Where were your parents? Where were your parents at that time? Were you guys so separated? Because as a dad, I sense such shit from a mile away. So how did that go?
I'm so glad you asked, because one of those signs that you know that he's an abuser, okay, if your friend exhibits these signs, it's control, okay? He controlled everything. He took over Now, when he first met my father, when we were first dating, he was Prince fucking Charming.
Of course. Yeah.
Prince Charming. Okay. Dad was kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever, but he tolerated it. Okay. But little by little and over time, now I had met this man in 2012. Okay. The abuse didn't start immediately. So, but little bit over time, you know how when you come home from a bad day of work and you kind of de-stress a little bit, and you say, honey, you'll never believe what happened today at work. Okay. So I did not know that when I was going home and saying, oh my God, my dad did this today, because I somewhat worked for my father. Okay. So when I was saying dad did this or dad, right, everything that was a bad experience, he turned around and used against me.
Of course.
Okay. If I told him a secret, or it could have been the slightest little thing, right? Like, I love chocolate ice cream, honey. Well, then it turned into, well, you can't get this. You can't have your chocolate ice cream until everything was turned around and used against me.
The classic
Right.
narcissist,
So,
the classic manipulator.
Yes. So he controlled everything. He controlled who my friends were. And little by little, I lost contact with my friends. It would be things like, I don't think she's good for you, honey. My children were, honey, maybe we shouldn't have the kids over tonight. We're going to get drunk. We don't want them to see that. Those kinds of little things. Okay. It would be, in fact, what happened with my father, the culmination was I came home one night and actually I texted him, and I think we were married at that point. And I was texting him saying, oh my God, my dad, I love my dad dearly. Okay. But my father is the second biggest narcissist I have met in my life. My ex-husband being the first. So it was before I realized what was going on that I texted my then husband, the abusive one, and was texting him, oh my God, my dad did this again. I mean, just, going off. Well, I didn't realize that he would then, of course, he's texting me back, honey, I got this, I got us, pumping me up and getting me all excited. And it had culminated, over weeks and months that my dad, that, I was bitching about him. And, finally it was, this was his opportunity to finally swoop in. Okay. and say, honey, it's okay. I've got us. I've got this. You can quit your job. I'll take care of us. Blah, blah, blah. And I believed every fucking word. Okay. And that was his opportunity to then throw my father under the bus. And you can't, everything possible to put my father in the bad light. I lost touch with my family. I lost touch with my children. I lost touch with my friends. I became completely isolated from the outside world other than where I was working. And even because I quit that job, okay, I ended up having to get another job. And even that one, he ended up showing up at work at that second job. I mean, it was more than my second, but that next job, he ended up showing up, and it was a auto mechanic place. So he kind of fit in, he, schmoozed the guys, bought them drinks, complete narcissist, right? So he managed to get in with that one. Okay. So, I mean, he controlled everything except the finances. And that was only because he didn't know how. And that was when a lot of those, the rubber mallet came about, because one of his other addictions was gambling. He played the lottery. I mean, like, incessantly played the lottery, every single night played the lottery. And that night, that's exactly what it was, that he accused me of taking $500 of our money and putting it somewhere. I wish I had, okay, but I didn't. But yes, so to answer your question, my parents, it wasn't because of me, it was because of what he had done and what I had allowed without knowing, that I had let him isolate me from my family.
Wow. What happened in 2018 that then changed?
I ended up in the hospital in 2016. I went through, because the alcoholism, well, I had always said that I knew my alcohol abuse was getting way out of hand. And I can't tell you how many times I would have said, I had said, okay, God, either put me in the ground or put me in the hospital. Those were my only options. At that point, those were my only options, ground or hospital. And my higher power said, okay, you asked. We don't want you in the ground, because you've had your near-death experiences. You've had many. I had a motorcycle accident that should have killed me. Obviously, dealing with this man, the gunshot wound. I mean, he could have very easily killed me. I attempted suicide 3 times with this man. I attempted suicide at the age of 16. Okay. Yes, the higher power definitely has better and bigger plans for me. So he said, okay, you asked, we're putting you in the hospital. And A week. Okay, so I started to tell you that it was one of those Saturday afternoons that we started drinking early. We got home about noonish, and everything was actually fine. Now, this is where I will definitely tell you that my higher power kicked in. I can't tell you to this day. I cannot tell you why I did this. I picked up my cell phone and I called the non-emergency number for my local police department. And it was one of those, as I said, it was a good day. They were very far and few between, but it was a good day. Well, it was decent. So I picked up and I asked, 911 emergency, how can I help you? No, I actually want to speak to non-emergencies or somebody that I can talk to. Well, what is this in regards to, ma'am? Well, I'm in an abusive situation. I just want to know, who can I talk to about getting out? Because at that point, I was out of options. I needed to do something. So I get a detective on the phone and he said, this is Detective so-and-so. And I said, oh, okay. How can I help you, ma'am? I said, well, I just want phone numbers. I don't know where to turn. I don't know how to find a phone numbers or somebody that I can talk to about having my husband leave the house. I'm in an abusive. Are you okay right now? He heard the word abusive and immediately went into cop mode, detective cop mode. And I said, yes, actually, I'm fine. Now I'm in the bedroom trying to keep quiet and not wake my husband, who had passed out on the sofa because we were drinking all night long and then drinking in the morning. And I said, yes, I'm fine. Everything's okay. And he said, okay. I said, I've been like 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And I just want a phone number. Can you give me a fucking phone number already? Right. Well, here comes my higher power. Okay. So my higher power wakes his ass up and all I hear is, who are you fucking talking to? I'm like, I'm talking to the kids, honey. All right. I'm like, oh shit. Now I'm on the phone with this detective. The detective hears.
Good.
Right.
Good.
Right. So, a few moments goes by. I'm trying to, the detective is asking me questions. Well, doesn't the asshole, start yelling again? I'm like, sir, I'm really okay. I have to go. I'll call you back at this number. Right.
Excellent.
All right. So he's screaming, from the sofa.
Excellent.
I'm telling, obviously my fear is coming to the surface. I'm sure the detective heard it. He comes, hung up the phone. Who are you talking to? I'm just talking to the kids, honey, my kids. And, oh, all right. Well, I heard you. You've been on the phone for a long time. Sorry, let me get you a drink. I hated doing that, but let me pass your ass out again, so that you don't hit me, Next thing I know, there's a knock on the door. There's two cops there. Now, I turn white. I'm like, oh, shit, this is not going to go well. There's 2 cops at the door. I am going to get such a beating, if not dead from this. That's immediately what's going through my head. So they haul his ass away. He's like, still half drunk. I'm like, I'm actually to the point. Now, you got to remember, I did fall in love with this man. Okay, there were some good qualities about him till those narcissistic, psychopathic, abusive SOB qualities came out. There was a part of him that I thought I loved. So, of course, I'm screaming not screaming, but I'm telling the cops, listen, it's a good day. He didn't hit me today. I'm okay. There was no abuse today. There's no reason for you to be hauling his ass away. They took him away anyway. Now, you asked me where my turning point was, and I'm getting there. So, and of course, this is from 2016, 17, the gunshot wound. Anyway, so how I ended up in the hospital, and we're getting there. So he gets hauled away. I'm like, oh my God. Now my kids, who one of them happened to live maybe 3 blocks away. He happens to come by, turns around, stops. Mom, are you okay? It was his immediate thing. Mom, are you okay? Next thing I know, my second son is there. These are my boys. These are my boys that I taught. Okay. No matter what. Okay. You never hit a woman. You respect a woman. There's no reason for it ever, ever, ever. These are my boys coming to make sure mama's okay. Okay. And they stayed that night. They changed all the locks on the doors. Okay. They just went into total protect mom mode.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah. Power to your boys.
They did.
Good.
Exactly. I know. I love them for that. They so did. So fast forward a few days, I end up getting sick. Now he's got the ex has got the protection order. He cannot come, within 1,000 feet, 1,000 yards, whatever it is. He cannot come over. If he needs to come get, toiletries closed, he's got to have a police officer. I have to leave the house. We cannot be anywhere near each other. Okay. So I get sick, like fever, chills, diarrhea, vomiting, can't keep anything down. I'm dehydrated. Now remember, I had said to my angels and my guardian angels that put me in the ground or put me in the hospital. And here comes put me in the hospital. So I'm sick, and it's like 7-8 days that I'm just not getting better. I'm thinking it's the flu. At one point, I think I had a bowl of cereal that didn't stay down. You know how bad milk is coming up. Okay, I mean, it was nasty. So about a week goes by, and my youngest one, always checking up on mom. This is the one that even though I didn't have that moment of bonding with him, here he is every single day checking on mom. Okay, so don't tell me there's no bond there. All right. So he finally comes over, and I think it was like a Friday or Saturday. And he's like, Mom, if you're not better by, because he had things already planned for the weekend. He said, Mom, if you're not better by Monday night when I get off work, I am taking you to the hospital. I was like, I'm not arguing. I mean, I'm going from, this is Florida. So I'm going from, blankets and sweatpants and everything else to, oh my gosh, I'm hot. I got this fever. I mean, the fever probably spiked at 104. It was that bad. And I'm thinking flu the whole time. So Monday comes, he stops by after work and he says, Mom, are you feeling any better? And I said, I'm not, I'm still going through everything. All right, get in the car. Okay, so I wrap up in my blanket, my hoodie and blanket and coat and whatever else I could, and halfway through it wasn't a long ride. Halfway through, I'm taking everything off because now I got the sweats are going. I mean, it was full blown. I thought full blown flu. Okay, so we get in there and he's helping me walk in, and I'm like, I'm fine, Nate. I'm okay. And you get to triage, and the nurse says, okay, have a seat. And she puts the blood pressure cuff on my right arm, and it's pumping up. And I'm looking at my son. He's standing, and I'm sitting in the chair, and I could see the worry on his face, And you can hear the hiss come out, and next thing I know, she's putting the blood pressure cuff on my left arm. I'm looking at my son, I'm looking at her, and she's not saying anything. And she pumps it up, and we're waiting, and she's, doing the thing, looking at her wrist and, everything else. And she said, Christine, let's take you back to a bed. I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Your blood pressure is just above room temperature. Yeah.
try like 70 over 50.
Exactly.
Okay? like she's I actually looked at her. This is my sense of humor. Okay. My son was right there. And I looked at her, I said, so what you're telling me is I should be dead, right? And she's almost white. Okay. I get put on they're taking it a third time to verify that my blood pressure is that low. I said, so I should not be coherent. I should not be talking to you. And she's like, no, I don't know what to do. No. So the doctor comes in, I'm trying to explain to him where I have this pain in my lower area. I mean, that sacral chakra way down low. It is as low as you can get in the female region. Okay. And the doctors come in and he's, poking and prodding and everything else. Well, Dad looks at all the stats. They're drawing blood left and right. My son's like, Mom, I'm going outside for a cigarette. Go. I know you don't want to see any of this. Go. You shouldn't have to, So, and now what he did obviously was to call his brother and sister and let them know, hey, mom's pretty sick. She's in the hospital. I don't even have a clue what's going on at this point. Okay. So the next thing I know, there is this now the ex is out of the picture somewhat. I know I can't have any contact with him. All I'm focusing on right now is that I'm in a hospital room. I am sick as a dog. And in walks this gorgeous man. I'm like, whoa, okay. I'm still young at heart, okay. And all I could think was, holy shit, he's gorgeous, okay. Christine, hi, my name is so-and-so. Didn't tell me he was doctor, didn't tell me anything, okay? And I'm like, oh, he's coming around this side of the bed. Okay, have at it. Now, when you've had 3 children, okay, one of them was cesarean. I've been through all the shit that I've been through, okay? There is no, there's no squeamishness left anymore. I mean, I have no problem, showing anybody anything if it makes me better. Okay. Not that I'm an exhibitionist, but you know what I'm saying, right? So he's like, feeling around. He said, I just want to, do you mind? And I'm, no, if you can help, go for it, And all I could think is, God damn, oh, and you smell good too, So he's feeling around and he's, looking at the charts and everything else. And, he says, okay, so my name is so-and-so and I'm a surgeon here. I'm like, oh, okay. I just thought you wanted to feel my body, doc. And that's my humor. I have no problem saying stuff like that. And I was just totally, because at this point in my life, I don't give a shit anymore. Okay. So he tells me he's a surgeon. He says, what I'd like to do is I'd like to do exploratory surgery on you and see what's going on down there. I was like, okay. If I was your wife, if I was your daughter, and he's got a grin, he's chuckling, he can sense my humor. And I said, if I was your mother, what, because he's young, he's probably, mid to late 30s, and I'm in my early 50s. Okay. When all this is happening. So I said, if I was your wife, because I couldn't see a ring. I didn't know if there was one there or not.
Oh,
right,
even
right?
Instinctively you're choosing. Oh,
right. Sex addict. Okay, I'm sorry. Sometimes it just comes out, So he says, oh yeah, if you were my wife, my daughter, my mother, yes, I would do exploratory surgery. So we do the exploratory surgery. I get out, I come, to, and he comes over and he says, Christine, I really think we need to open you up. I said, what do you mean open me up? He said, I need to get in there. I cannot see anything. I don't think it's ovarian cancer. That was why he wanted to do the exploratory, because it was so low. He thought that maybe it was ovarian cancer. So I can't find anything, I said, okay, I'm going to ask you the same question, doc. If I was your wife, your daughter, or your mother, what would you do? I'd open you up. I said, open me up. I got nothing to lose at this point in my life. I've got nothing to lose. Okay. Here's this man that, has beat the shit out of me, every way possible, inside and out. I got nothing to lose. I've been through all this other crap in my life. I've already said to my higher power, either put me on the ground or put me in the hospital. I'm here in the hospital. Do what you got to do. So when that second surgery happened, and I did not find out till after the fact, and of course he scheduled it immediately for the very next morning. Remember, it was on a Monday night. My son took me to the hospital. Tuesday morning, I'm getting prepped for surgery. And I'd already had the exploratory surgery that night. So I'm getting prepped for surgery, and I didn't find out till afterwards that I died on the table twice. Not once, but twice on that second surgery. So when I say I meant to do that, my higher power put me in the hospital, yeah, absolutely. So what happened was when he went in and he opened me up, and that was one hell of an experience. I ended up, when I did come to, and I had no recollection of dying on the table. Okay. I did have my spiritual moment, but it wasn't till a year later. It basically, when the doc came in, when I came to in the recovery room before you go to your regular room. Okay. I was so freaked out. I didn't know what. I ripped the tube out of my throat. I mean, just ripped it out. And as I'm ripping this out, the nurses they're not even around. And all of a sudden they catch me trying to get this thing out of my throat. Okay. They're trying to stop me. I'm fighting them like, no, get this fucking thing out of my throat. Right. So I finally, come to well enough, and Doc, the handsome guy, comes in, and his words to me were, and he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, Christine, if you take another drink, you will die. And he stayed silent. And I thought, and I kind of looked at him and I said, so-and-so, because by this time I already knew him by his first name. We had kind of had that rapport. I said, you know what? That's a theory I don't want to test. I said, so he basically told me what happened. So when he opened me up, he took out my gallbladder, my appendix, part of my colon, part of my intestine, and my whole left fallopian tube. Mm-hmm. Now, the infection that was raging through my body, and they still to this day have no idea where this infection came from. Well, I know where it came from. It came from me asking my higher power to put my ass in the hospital. So
I'm sorry if you're drinking like a fish, that you're sicking yourself, you're destroying your immune system, you're destroying every single bloody organ. And It's no surprise that even otherwise relatively innocent bugs can gain the stronger hand and can kill you. So that is exactly what is happening to an immune compromised patient. In the extreme version, like AIDS, that's an immune compromised. Well, an alcoholic is in full throw is not much different. So
no, I had full blown cirrhosis of the rib, full blown, and he told me which is why he said, if you take another drink, you will die. Full blown cirrhosis of the liver. I currently now have 2 pieces of metal. I have a stent in my liver that I was actually told that if I wanted to have any of my life, a normal life back, that I would have to have a liver transplant. I said, F you, not happening, not doing it. I will find a way to heal my body. And I did. I did. I changed my diet. I changed and of course I still had to go through hell with getting rid of the husband. The judge, didn't award me any money. Here I am on disability because I spent almost a year in and out of the hospital. I had the surgery for the stent, which is they go in through your jugular, okay, to put that metal down in your liver. That's a tricky, more so than the 70 some staples that I had in my body. Okay. So, and that's one of the things that I've always said, Stefan, with my drinking is that we'd have to be really naive and stupid if we don't think and know that all this drinking has got to be doing something to our body. We don't see it, but we know it's there. We know it's there. But here I am today. I'm healthy. I just turned 57 years old. I love what I do. I love teaching SASSI. I love igniting the fire in people. I love being able to help people. That's what I do. And I've talked your ear off. I'm sorry.
Not at all. Not at all. You have got such a powerful story. And I think it is really, really important to tell this story. Because only by being transparent, by showing humility, and by opening up, can we show the darkness that we have gone through, and therefore make it clear to others that they are not alone in their darkness. When I was in my deep drinking days, I thought I'm the only one. There's no one who possibly could feel as much pain, who possibly could be in the situation that I am. I was full of shame, full of guilt, and all that kept me very isolated. And these were a lot of lies that my depression and my alcoholism told me. And that is why I have got this show, because I want others to know that these are freaking lies that your body, your mind is telling you. You have no clue. I mean, if I tell you that 1 in 3 people are chemically dependent, have got a chemical addiction, that is a hell of a lot of people. people that you look up to, that people you think, wow, they got really their shit together. Tell you what, they're freaking alcoholics. They're freaking addicts. Okay. They just by some fluke have not yet fallen so far down onto their face that they are ready to make a change. They are probably still in the either denial phase, which is 95% of alcoholics. 95% will tell you hand on heart, there's nothing wrong with my drinking. Joe down there, I look at him. Now he's an alcoholic. Me? No, I'm a social drinker. I'm just very social, Bullshit. So those are the realities. So once you can cut through that bullshit of denial and really look into the mirror and figure out, actually, man, what you're doing is just suicide in installments. You're basically slowly dying. And even then, you feel powerless because you think you're alone. You're isolated. You think, oh my God, if I now tell someone, God, I'm a doctor. My God, what will happen to my career? As if no one knew that I'm drinking, for crying out loud. You can reek it. I'm reeking probably of it. It's all that. My goodness. But that's the reason that Christine and I are here, that we are nowadays spending our time here sharing where we have been. More importantly, our addictions are part of us, but they haven't defined us. We are nowadays, I have got a woman there who is sassy, okay? And I actually like that sassy, the more I think about it. But somehow we need to come up with a male version of it. Hey, I'm sassy. I think that gets misunderstood. So come up with something male for me, please.
I'll work on it for you, Stefan. Absolutely. I'm great at acronyms. So
there you go. No, I think the reality is, I'm so grateful that you shared all those details from your history, because it is those transparent and humble moments that hopefully will allow someone else to pick up the phone, to make that one step, that so most difficult, yet with hindsight, so easy step, to actually just call someone. And there's should be someone that maybe can do something. A good friend, maybe, okay. But how about your GP? How about your family physician? And if you haven't got one, maybe get one and actually have an honest word. I've got a good... Hey?
Walk into a church, find a priest, find a nun, find somebody, a teacher, a guidance counselor, somebody from, we're a police station, anybody of authority that is supposed to help,
right?
Have them help. All right.
And exactly. And none of that costs you a thing. Even if you are down and out, have no money, just open up and say, look, I'm ready I need help, please. The moment you say those magic words, things will start changing, and it will be an amazing journey. It will be a painful journey, but my educated guess is that there's so much pain heaped into your life right now that the pain of recovery is minor compared with the pain that you're going through right now in your soul, maybe even in your body. Okay, so please, guys, before you seek, understand that you are not alone. And please believe me that there's help out there. And once you accept these two things, then you can actually go out there and just knock on the door of someone. And you will be amazed. Please, you will be amazed. One thing, though, is we see it often enough. I've had so many women who were on my show or that I spoke to privately, who were going through sexual abuse, domestic abuse. And there is sometimes the first reactions that come back from someone is, no, I don't believe you. Those kind of things. If you hear something like that, now that can't be, then you know that this person in his or her own mind is struggling with things, and it's just their own world is crumbling down. So they are not in a position to help you. So don't take it too hard. And it's so hard to say, for Christ's sake. Finally, you're opening up after months and years of abuse and hurt. And then someone says, no, I don't believe you. That's brutal. Don't give up at that moment. Seek another voice, seek another help, go to seek someone who actually believes you. And that is then when your journey starts. Is that fair to say, Christine?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can attest to that, because I went to my mom and told her what my grandfather had done. And she said those exact words, that can't be true. You're lying. Exactly. And it wasn't until after she passed that I realized she probably was abused also. We don't understand. Right. So don't take it to heart. Don't take it personal. And I did. It hurt. But find somebody that you can talk to. That's one of the things that I teach, the women that come to me, is that find somebody. Don't give up. And if you see somebody suffering, we have to have that communication. We have to open those lines of communication. We have to, the biggest hint or tip that I tell people is get them in a car, take them for a car ride. They're a captive audience. They cannot leave you. So if you're driving that car, even if it's just driving around, you're saying, dude, Mary, there's a problem. We're not getting out of this vehicle until we talk it out. And be there, just listen. But they can't get out, so they can't go anywhere. Because the typical answer is, no, I'm fine. Because we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to break, but they can't get out of the car, right?
I love it. That's exactly the way, isn't it?
Don't give up.
Exactly. Christine, you're an amazing woman. Christine Malek. I mean, wow. You have gone through hell and kept going. And I'm so humbled that you actually, and honored that you came onto my show.
Well, thank you.
It is, if people listen to you and think, wow, she's got her shit together today. And look, she's using humor and actually is so brutally honest. Wow, I would love to do that. I would love to go on a journey like that. If people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
They can go to my website. It's SASSICoach.com. The easiest place right now and the best place to find me is on Facebook. And that's, of course, facebook.com/ my business page is SASSI Coach Christine. There's a calendar link there. There's posts there. There's, everything possible, any way possible to reach out to me. I try to make myself available to anybody and everybody that needs it. I will find a way around, no matter what time zone, where we're at. I talked to a woman in Nigeria a few months back, and she was it was just through Messenger, but she was on the verge of ending her life. And I talked to her about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And I said, how are you doing? She said, Mom. She calls me Mom. Okay. I love it. She said, Mom, I got a job. I said, oh my gosh, that's awesome. But because of just listening to her and helping and the posts that I put on Facebook and those words of encouragement and the things that because I am dead honest. My honesty is, I tell people, I will be honest with you. Brutally honest, probably, but you're gonna love me for it. And that's that. I said, do you still? She said, I get up every morning just waiting to see what your post is, to see what you put out there today. I was like, okay, that's all I need to hear. I know I've helped one person, and that's all it takes is just to help one person. She's a working member of society. She's providing for her children. She's feeling good. She's got her sassy back. Not 100%, not where I'm at, but one day at a time. Isn't that what we're taught? One day at a time.
Wow.
Facebook, SASSI Coach Christine, or sassycoach.com.
Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast, because it's all there. Whilst you're down there, please press the subscribe and the like button. Maybe leave a comment on the show. And it's just go out there and live your life to the fullest. And I hope we've rattled your cage, and we've given you the insights to allow you to take action. Because it's the taking action, small but consistent steps are in the right direction that change your life forever. And Christine and I are on that path. We just so happen to be a bit further down the path than you are at the moment. That is not to say that in a few years' time, you're not in a similar position as we are, trying to make this world a bit of a better place, one interview, one book at a time. So who knows? God, come along on the journey. That's all I can invite you all out there for. It's a beautiful journey. It's a journey where from now and then you fall down and scrape your knees. And from now and then, yeah, it's not so nice. And from now and then it's bloody hard. But it's a beautiful journey, because I'm continuously growing. And with every day, with every interview here, I'm growing. Christine helped me dust off a few memories that would have been quite nice to forget, but they are back. And now, therefore, I've got the privilege to reevaluate them and deal with them and maybe learn new lessons from them, because everything is there to teach you a lesson. So I'm incredibly grateful to you, Christine, for spending the time with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stefan. I am too. Thank you.
And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with passion. Bye.